there's one thing everyone's talking about in 2024, it's that the low-cost airlines are toast.
There's a question. Is the low-cost airline model dead, or is it changing?
Andrew, it's not dead, but it's certainly in a bad situation right now when you look at shares of both Spirit as well as Frontier.
And it's not because there isn't demand for leisure travel. In fact, quite the opposite is true. The big three are just coming in and stealing the cheese.
The full-service carriers, the Uniteds, the Deltas of the world have moved more into those traditional leisure markets, and they're doing that with a much better product. They've cracked the code on basic economy, and they're really, they're taking advantage of their loyalty program to offer consumers aspirational travel.
And the list goes on. The big three are more operationally reliable, they have bigger networks, and they can better control labor costs in an inflationary environment. Now, within the big three, another battle is brewing, and it's between Delta and United. Delta has long held the title of America's most profitable airline, and they've racked up a slew of other trophies from Time, Fortune, J.D. Power, The Wall Street Journal, Skytrax, Cirium, Forbes, and more. They're the best airline to work for and supposedly the top airline for passenger satisfaction in premium cabins. They call it the Delta difference, a combination of its people, network, financial strength, operational reliability, and customer loyalty. If you've flown with them recently, you probably know what I mean. Their employees are friendlier, their planes are nicer, and their pilots give out trading cards, each labeled with the plane in Delta's fleet. You can sell these things on eBay, by the way. I saw a complete 2022 set going for $225. By the way, success is relative. If you invested $100 in Delta stock 5 years ago, you'd only have $70 today, in September of 2024. But if you put the same $100 in American, you'd only have $40 and $50 for United. Airlines are a tough business, and success is generally measured on your ability to not screw up. American and United have historically screwed up more, going through years of strategy changes, management shakeups, labor disputes, and operational challenges, while Delta has generally held it together and maintained a positive brand image.
I think Delta is extremely attractive. This is a premium brand.
I mean, they've won, don't you think? They've won. Yeah. They are the best. They are the premier airline in the country, the best to travel on. If everyone could afford it, they would do it all the time. The best operator. Their stock was up like 15 days in a row recently. They're the only one who didn't raise equity during the pandemic. Think about that. I mean, they're just it's incredible.
But things are changing. United's new CEO is young and scrappy, and he wasn't going to settle for being number two.
Everyone else left us an opening on the playing field, I think, to run through and be the biggest and best airline in the world.
So is Delta asleep at the wheel, or is United going on the offensive? I think it's a combination of both. We've begun to see cracks in the operation at Delta, most notably with the CrowdStrike apocalypse meltdown that forced the airline to cancel 6,500 flights in just a few days, more flights than it canceled in all of 2018 and 2019 combined. Just a month later, Delta announced that its chief operating officer, Mike Spanos, would be departing the company after just a year in the seat. Then you obviously can't ignore the anecdotal evidence from travel reviewers on YouTube, suggesting that delays have become more common and that the product doesn't pack as much punch as it used to.
I have to say, delays have been a little bit more common in my Delta flying experience lately than they have been in the past, which is too bad.
Every time I'm just kind of like, meh, for me personally.
And here's a very interesting perspective from a loyal United flyer that I found.
I was expecting Delta to be a lot better than United, and it's only better in certain ways. In some ways, it's not any better.
So customers have increasingly high expectations, especially the high-paying ones that Delta is after. And although Delta isn't going away anytime soon, United is catching up, and the proof is in the numbers. Over the past 2 years, United has boosted its operating margins by a whopping 12%. They went from losing over $1 billion in 2021 to making $4.2 billion in 2023. Delta was profitable in 2021, which is somewhat incredible. And they've also seen margin expansion, but only 3%. So the difference in operating margins has narrowed to under 2% from over 10% just 2 years ago. That's pretty impressive. So let's take a look at exactly how United has done it. Put simply, they've made huge investments in the passenger experience. And before anyone goes off about how their food sucks, I totally agree. But I'm mainly talking about planes and airports here. When Kirby took office, United had one of the oldest fleets in the industry. Planes were on average 2.5 years older than Delta's planes and a full 5 years older than American's planes. Additionally, they suffered from what industry gurus called a gauge problem. Essentially where they were forced to fly small single-cabin regional jets on lucrative routes like DC to Newark because they simply didn't have enough mainline jets or regional jets with first class to go around.
50-seat regional jets, are some of the toughest customer experience. And at United, we really needed to get that to be a world-class, first-class product.
So the Band-Aid solution was to convert some of the existing CRJ 700s to CRJ 550s with a first-class cabin, more carry-on space, and even a walk-up refreshment center. But ultimately, United was going to need more narrow bodies. In June 2021, Kirby announced that United was ordering 270 new planes, including 200 737 MAXs and 70 A321neos. In 2023, they added on 60 more A321neos, bringing their narrow-body order book to 530 planes, by far and away the largest order book of any U.S. carrier, representing a huge push towards fleet renewal and expansion. Including wide bodies, United's order book sits at a pretty astounding 725 planes, placing it second to only Indigo as the most planes on order by any carrier in the world. As some of these aircraft have started to enter service, specifically the A321neo and 737 MAX 9s, we've gotten a sneak peek at the vibe United is going for in its cabins. Definitely premium, with plenty of first class and extra legroom seats, big HD seatback screens, swanky mood lighting, and of course, fast Wi-Fi. To get the passenger to pay more, you have to give them more, and that is one way United is protecting its profitability, even as we've seen average ticket prices decrease over the past year. This airfare plunge has exposed massive vulnerabilities in the low-cost model, as Spirit and Frontier have been unable to charge more because they can't really offer anything more than just the bare-bones economy experience. At any rate, let's take a look at one of the most important measures of unit profitability, passenger revenue per available seat mile, or PRASM. United has increased its PRASM over 20% since 2019, which I'd consider the pre-COVID benchmark year. Unsurprisingly, Delta has the highest PRASM of the big three, and has also seen growth, albeit at a slightly slower pace at around 17% since 2019. Okay, so premium seats is one way United is driving profits, but that's only one piece of the pie. The other, I would argue, is the strength of its network, especially its international routes.
We've become the flag carrier, really, for the United States. We have more international flying than all the rest of the U.S. airlines combined.
Indeed, United today is more global than ever, serving 120 international destinations in every continent except Antarctica. Whether you're flying from San Antonio to Paris or Albuquerque, New Mexico to Christchurch, New Zealand, United can get you there in one stop, all on their own planes. Now, you may be saying, Peter, Delta can also get me from San Antonio to Paris in one stop. Yes, they can. And they can get you to Lagos, Nigeria, and Accra, Ghana as well. Delta's international network is pretty strong. In fact, United and Delta have been battling it out for the title of U.S. flag carrier for some time.
People are just going, and they continue to go. And I think that force of nature, that continued drive to travel and to experience life is changed, particularly on the international scene, anything that we've ever seen. We've got international markets continuing to open. Japan, Korea, Australia, the UK, Germany, people were ready to go, and they're going.
Both carriers realized that they could drive customer loyalty and revenue premium by flying more passengers farther without passing them off to their partners. Now, don't get me wrong, many international airlines and Star Alliance and SkyTeam offer a better onboard product than United or Delta, but there's a trade-off. Oftentimes when flying codeshare itineraries, you'll have to input your passport information twice, go to multiple different websites to select your seat, and spend extra time transferring between terminals at your connecting airport. For many travelers, they'd prefer the peace of mind just knowing they'll be on one airline the entire journey. And it just seems more logical and is probably less likely to stress them out. Said another way, product and service consistency is huge, and being able to deliver that in a 350-mile route and a 3,500-mile route is certainly not easy. United is now once again the world's largest carrier by available seat miles, after being the smallest at the peak of the pandemic. It's flying more passengers further, and it's doing so on bigger planes than its primary competitors. In fact, at one point it had more wide bodies than both Delta and American combined, and the current count of 220 still is 40% more than Delta and a whopping 75% more than American. It notoriously decided not to retire a bunch of wide-body planes during the pandemic, which of course caused some short-term financial pain. But keeping all those 767s and 777s around turned out to be an incredible move, as it allowed them to operate a full transatlantic schedule quicker than its competitors, and also not rely on new aircraft deliveries to expand capacity. So I personally believe United is closing the gap with Delta in the battle to become America's most premium airline. Whoever wins this battle, in theory, should also be America's most profitable. So it'll be interesting to see if there's a changing of the guard of sorts in the coming years. Mr. Kirby is a man on a mission, and he's got United on the right trajectory, but he's still got hurdles left to navigate if he wants to rise to the top. United, unlike Delta, has unionized flight attendants, and they're not happy with the way they're currently being compensated.
I've been here for almost 8 years, and me and my husband still cannot buy a house because we can't afford it, and I haven't gotten a raise in nearly 3 years, so unfortunately we don't have any chances to save to do that.
They voted to authorize a strike for the first time since 2005, and although it's unlikely they'll just walk off the job, labor disputes can still be costly because, well, if employees aren't happy, customers probably won't be happy either. Additionally, United's domestic growth hinges upon its ability to take delivery of new planes in a timely manner, and unfortunately, most of their narrow-body orders are Boeing 737 MAX 10s. Now, hopefully this needs no explanation, but the MAX 10s are massively delayed, and Boeing is struggling to even get MAX 8s and MAX 9s out the door, let alone test and certify a new plane. United is well aware of this and has hedged its bets by ordering more A321neos and extending the lives of its 757s and 767s. But the longer this thing drags out, the more cost United will incur by 1. Flying less fuel-efficient planes, 2. Not having enough capacity to meet demand, and 3. Not putting its best onboard product out there. Finally, yes, they do have to figure the whole food thing out as well, because if there's one aspect of the product that's single-handedly ruining their reputation right now, it's the catering, especially up front. But what I want to know is, have you flown United recently? If so, do you think they'll ever be in the same league as Delta? Let me know in the comments. But thanks again for joining me today. Hope you enjoyed this brief foray into commercial airline strategy, and I wish you the safest and happiest of travels wherever your journeys may take you. So long from Flaps HQ here in Orlando.